I'm back. Did you miss me? I missed you? Okay, first order of business. Yeah, mostly. There's some exceptions. It's a mixed bag of mostly good things. Into video. What, you want more? Okay. Okay, first of all, before we begin, I want to give a fond farewell and thank you to this totally rad shirt. Since I last put up a video, Neon Genesis Evangelion came to Netflix, and for the first time in years, people have a legal way to enjoy the show. I did those 2 Learning from Ava videos using the Platinum Collection DVDs, and it's been really fun to rewatch the show. I think it holds up, aside from a couple of dated things. Now, the 3 biggest things a longtime fan of the show will notice that are different are, 1, and this one breaks my heart, but Fly Me to the Moon is missing. They didn't have the rights to the Sinatra song or something, so they just replaced it with one of the soundtrack cues from the show, and that's the end theme song. And if you've seen Ava, you know that stylistically that was used on occasion in different episodes to kind of give us a great send-off. 9 times out of 10 it didn't matter, but when they were doing that, you know what I'm talking about. Cue an example. The show's for kids, right? Second, the show's in HD, high definition, for the first time in the US? I don't know, holy smokes. Like, I've been watching this show for like 20 years, starting on the white VHS tapes, and there are details on this watch that I never caught before in some of the fights, and that is super cool. Like, to watch a show for that long and then for the first time, like, see something new just on account of the show's never looked better. Now, on the other hand, there are cases where you can, for example, see the brushwork on some of the background art and stuff, and it really starts to show the seams of the show, if you will. Like, you know, they were in a rush, they had to do a picture of a city, so it's a bunch of, you know, like, vertical lines. And thirdly, there is a new dub, a new modern dub. I didn't know they were doing this. There's a new dub of Ava on the new version of Ava. I assume because the rights of the old one were too much of a pain to get, and they're like, let's just do a new one. Lots of people have done takes on this dub, and the team, and the context around it, and some of the choices they made, and I don't necessarily want to dive into every single difference. Those podcasts and YouTube videos are out there. I promise I'll link some later. And this is my, 3rd, 4th time, like, getting to look at this story because of those changes. Because when I originally watched it, I was an anime purist. You know, I was like, subs only, blah, blah, blah. You know, I was that guy when I was watching those videotapes. And it wasn't until the Platinum Collection DVDs for Evangelion came out in the mid-2000s, those silver box DVDs, that I started giving the dub a shot because they did all this amazing audio work to it. And I really came to appreciate the cast and the work they did, whereas before I think I'd been really critical of them. And I don't think I'm the only one, because a lot of people are upset about this new dub and like, why didn't they keep the old cast? And the old dub was perfect, even though it wasn't, because, you know, the old thing you remember is always better than the new thing you're watching now, because we have terrible memories. I'm getting off topic. I want to talk about how the new dub plays from a tone and writing and storytelling and filmmaking perspective. You know, let's see what we can learn. We should call this video the End of Learning from Evangelion. Alright, so first things first, what's good? The writing and the performances are, for the most part, with some exceptions, much clearer, and the whole thing feels more conversational and authentic because of that. the way they used to do dubs, and I think they still do them this way, you know, you bring an actor in, you sit him in a booth, like a booth with just a stool, like a tiny little box, and they can see a screen through a window, and line by line they have them do the whole episode. And because of that way of recording, anime dubs have a sort of stiltedness to it that you don't get if you have actors actually performing off of each other. This new translated script is, again, exceptions aside, quite good. There's fewer like word salads. There's a lot more naturalistic dialogue, and I find it to be really sophisticated and pleasant to listen to, and it's so nice that they're having conversations. And it also, there's a lot of jokes in Evangelion that just didn't land for me in the past because of the way dubs are done. Like, it would be like, I understand conceptually that they are making a joke. But now in this new dub, because of the performances, the work that they did, it's actually funny. I actually laughed out loud at stuff. You know, because of that nuance and subtlety in the performances, the subtext lands better too. You can tell somebody's deliberately lying, for example. And you know, on that note, I'll just come out and say it, like, the new actors are really, really great, even outside of the performances, because I think the old cast was great too. There's some qualities to the new actors that I really like. So, for example, new Gendo, we'll call him new dub Gendo, Akari.
You left me because I was no use to you, right?
Anita rose, so I sent for you.
Gendo is a character that has a tendency to chew scenery because he has all the power and he is prone to being quiet and Machiavellian most of the time, and then he says crazy shit. And in this performance, he still does a lot of that, but he is dialed back in a way that makes him more human, and I think it really works for him as a character because it gets me thinking about him as a person as opposed to him as like a force of nature, if that makes sense. And I'm really excited about this. The new Asuka, she is, I'm gonna find her name and put her in the subtitles, the actress. She is great. And in addition to her performance being really great, she sounds young.
Didn't you get the memo? You got fired today. You're looking at Misato's new room.
And that adds a quality to the character that I think is really awesome. So Tiffany Grant was the original voice actress for Asuka. And no doubt in my mind, especially if you go back and watch, what is it, episode 23, I think, Don't Be, the Asuka deconstruction episode, from the Platinum Collection, like, Tiffany Grant's performance in that is awesome. But Tiffany Grant's voice has a brassy quality to it. So she sounds a little older than 14. And this new actress has a similar vocal quality in general, but she also has the ability to sound young. And Asuka is a confident, critical, judgmental, she knows everything, like, she is a overpowering force in this thing, and to give that character a voice that at any moment could just make her sound like a kid is a cool character thing, because it undermines the whole house of cards she's built for herself, right? Honestly, if I was going to make the 2-minute version of this video, I would just say, is the new dub good? Well, how does Shinji's screams sound? Because that is pretty much the most important vocal performance in Evangelion, and thankfully, new dub Shinji, dope ass screamer. Another nice thing about the new dub, the extra time and effort and just the way they do things now, the minor characters sound less absurd, they sound more natural. There's less like, oh, I can't get any more. There's not that vocal quality of the performance where it's like, I've already played 5 characters and I have to play a 6th for 4 episodes, god damn it. And alright, so we covered the areas where it's better. Where is it worse? Where's the new dub worse? Well, okay, here's the thing. There are some really clunky translation choices. The most obvious of which is the child pilots in Evangelion are referred to in the original Japanese as children. Now, the Japanese don't speak English that well necessarily, unless they do, so the literal translation, the original subtitles, they would call them the third children, the second children, the first children. The original dub, when ADV did the Evangelion dub, they said, that's weird and distracting, let's just call it the first child, the second child, the third child. Let's use our, let's use our mastery of English grammar to fix this. Well, after everything good that I said about how naturalistic and cool like the new dub sounds, for everything it gets right, for some inexplicable reason, they went back to children. So you're trucking along, everything's fine, and then there's a mention of, oh yeah, he's the third children.
He's the third children as reported by the Marduk Institute.
And it's incredibly distracting. You don't want to do things that pull people out of a story, especially an insane story about giant muscly robots fighting abstract math in the apocalypse. Apparently, the story goes that the dub team wanted to be super literal in their translation choices, which, my opinion, is doing really naturalistic dialogue, and then doing this is actually a contradiction, but I'm also not a dub director, so okay. There is also, God, one other thing, and I hope Netflix fixes this, but Eva is a show that likes to deliver information fast and at different cadences, and one of the ways they do that, and I know I talked about this in the Learning from Evangelion videos, but they like to hit you with a flashed screen that's full of a digital sign with a bunch of information on it. Trains being delayed, robot power readouts, subtitles showing us that we're in different parts of Japan setting up for some crazy project. Previous dubs have done a better job of subtitling that stuff so that you get the wall of information in English. You don't have time to read it all, that's the point, but it flashes by, you see it. This one doesn't do that. It'll subtitle some things, but it seems really random and irregular. It actually looks like a technical limitation, and it's something that I hope that they can fix because it tells a better story. And as previously mentioned, I do really miss Fly Me to the Moon. Let's watch one of those clips again. And as for the rest, like, the show is still the show. It's mostly the same. Same score, same story, same animation. Alright. That's my hot takes. What'd you think of those? Yeah, check the notes below. I'm going to post links to Waypoint, Vice Waypoint's podcasts of their Ava watches. It's going to be like 12 or 16 hours of their Ava takes. So far I found them to be really thoughtful, and it's a great mix of new fans and longtime fans talking about the show in a modern context, what's changed, what stayed the same. I think that's really great stuff. I also found a couple of YouTube vids that I think are excellent that do the kind of Criterion collection deep dive that I'm not doing here. So if you really want to dive into that stuff, check out those links, give them a watch. It's going to tie up like 15 hours to get through all of them. I'm prepping for San Diego Comic-Con. It's later this week. So first things first, I'm going to hold a candlelight vigil to my Totally Rad t-shirt. And then I'm going to go pack for that. And I think I'm going to do a Comic-Con video. So I will circle back around. More on that later. Be well. Woo.